Zenless Zone Zero is the most recent game made by Hoyoverse, which released earlier this month. Personally, I was kind of following it when I found out about it back in November of last year, but wasn't looking super into it until about June, so for a while I had a little feeling I might not enjoy the game, personally. Why was I following the game then? Well, that relates to my original goal, just to get a certain character who made me interested in the game. So the game was released, and I played it. What did I think about it? Well, I really enjoyed my time with it. But even though I personally liked it, is this game actually any good at all? To start, I want to discuss the core gameplay. When going into a level, up to 3 agents can be selected. Each agent has an attribute like ice, fire, electric, or less elemental attributes like physical or ether. Agents also have a fighting style, being either attack, stun, anomaly, support, or defense. They are also all in a faction that doesn't directly affect gameplay, but having agents of the same faction or attribute can give those agents an extra effect, as well as giving extra bang boo effects, which I'll discuss in a little bit. In battles, agents have a main attack that can also have an extra attack by doing stuff like holding it down or while dashing, depending on the. There's a dodge to obviously dodge through attacks. An agent can perform dodge attacks when attacking during it. Being that 3 agents can be selected, using assist switches through them, but sometimes an assist attack can be done. It shows in the corner, so just pay attention to it. Special attacks are the most consistent way of dealing attribute damage, although they aren't as spammable as base attacks. Mostly through basic attack, energy is charged up, having enough turn and special attacks into EX special attacks when used. Being stronger attacks also doing attribute damage. Sometimes when attacking you can select one of your other agents to perform a chain attack, being similar to either their EX or ultimate. Usually one chain will happen against basic enemies, but stronger enemies too can happen, and bosses will go through all of the agents. Finally is the ultimate attack, which uses a point system. Attacking gives points, but extra are earned by doing stuff like dodging, stunning, or assist attacks. At 3000 points, it caps out, and an agent can do an ultimate attack, being really strong and even playing an animation when used. Alongside agents, Bangbu can be added for extra support on teams. Each Bangbu has an active skill that either deals attribute damage or provides extra support. All Bangbus also provide a buff for a team if a team has either 2 agents of a specific attribute, 2 agents of the same faction, or one of a specific fighting style, although most of the fighting style Bangbus don't have a third effect and are generally not as good, also being easier than the faction rail. Let's take it. The third effect is a chain attack. Once a chain attack reaches the last agent to attack, the Bangbu can also do a special attack, then the final agent does theirs. The gameplay is pretty strong, pretty simple on surface level, but getting further in the game, it's definitely more than just spamming the attack button. To get the agents and Bangbus, there's a gotcha system having 3 different versions. Before going into the systems, agents and Bangbus have 2 ranks, being A and S ranks. There are also W engines that can be equipped onto agents which have an A or S ranks, but are the only B rank you can get in all the gotchas. The main gotcha in A rank agent or W engine shows up every 10 pulls, so doing 10 pulls guarantees at least 1 A rank. S ranks are much rarer and are guaranteed every 100 pulls, and in the main gotcha, a chosen S rank can be a player choice after the first 300 pulls, but this may not be permanent because out of the 8 currently in the game, the only one that can be picked isn't in either of the next forms of gotcha, the exclusive ones. The difference is that a specific S rank has a 50% chance of being that S rank when an S rank is pulled, and there's also no W engines that you can get of the S rank. There's also 2 A ranks that have a 50% chance of being pulled when an A rank is pulled, but you can still get A rank W engines though. There are also W engine versions having a higher chance agent specific W engine instead. S ranks are always W engines instead of only agents. S ranks are guaranteed every 80 pulls, and the higher chance W engines have a 75% chance instead of 50. To pull on these gotcha, the basic one requires master tapes, while the exclusive gotcha uses encrypted master tapes instead. Both can be gotten through polychrome, something obtained by basically everything in the game, and what I would call this game's mileage. which you get by doing polls. The difference is encrypted master tapes are gotten through mostly events compared to basic master tapes, and are gotten even through general gameplay. The final gacha type is the Bangbu gacha, in which all A and S ranks are Bangbus. S ranks are obtained every 80 polls, and the S rank Bangbu can be chosen to make it easier. Instead of tape, coupons are used for polls, which are gotten less often through gameplay and through a similar mileage system, but for the Bangbu gacha. And that's all I have to say about the gacha. The only problem I have is that polls are not often enough to be the reason I play or give me a feeling of wanting to get all the agents. Admittedly, this may not be a problem for those who play other Hoyoverse games, but I don't play those. Instead, the main gacha game I play is Cookie Run, specifically Kingdom. Polls in that game are way more often, but there isn't any guarantee like this game, the exception being for legendaries, which are harder to pull for on their special banners. Although ZZZ is single player heavy, and while there is a meta, it's really not mandatory to follow. That's enough of these games. They're very different, and I don't want to compare them too hard. The levels in ZZZ are commissions having three types: story, combat, and exploration. In commissions, there are two parts, being the core gameplay where you fight, and one where you travel around using monitors, having small secrets when exploring a lot of the time. Story commissions mix both of these together alongside usually having trial modes where you use the agents in that part of the story where you play these, or in agent stories, which I'll discuss more later. The agent in that story is in trial mode, but players can still decide the rest of the team. Combat and exploration commissions are obtained from the NPCs around the towns and other hub areas. Combat commissions tend to not have any traveling in them, being entirely fighting enemies instead. On the other hand, exploration commissions tend to have little to no battles. Exploration commissions can be very unique, as well as having special puzzles or minigames that need to be completed. Overall, I think the commission system is pretty well made, story commissions being the general and required ones, while combat and exploration commissions are either shorter or mix up the gameplay and are not required for those who may not like a certain level. While most of the overworld areas outside of the main one don't have much special gameplay, similar to the core gameplay at the very least, but there is one area that provides much more to do, being the Scott Outpost. There are four modes accessed here, the first being Hollow Zero. Hollow Zero has longer exploration portions, has pressure so movements must be careful to not weaken teams too much. Throughout the level there's Rezonia that gives agents buffs, more Bangbus can be gotten, each floor in a level has a stronger enemy as a boss, with the final floor having an actual boss enemy. Finally, there's a main agent that players start with, then the others are found later on, and only 3 agents can be in a team at once. When choosing agents, up to 6 can be equipped for later. The next mode is the Shiyu Defense. 4 waves of enemies attack, and they have to be defeated in a time limit. This mode is an efficient way of getting Polychrome too. Beating a level here gives 100 Polychrome. Beating it in certain times can give 100 or even 200 more Polychrome per level. The next mode is Cleanup. Admittedly, I haven't actually played this mode, but from outside I do know that you at least have to fight 2 stronger enemies in these. Finally is the Notorious Hunt, where a stronger enemy is fought than a previous story boss. I should also mention that while Hollow Zero and Shiyu Defense give first a few rewards but don't require anything to play them, Cleanup requires 40 batteries, and Notorious Hunt can be fought 3 times per week. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of any of these modes, but they are good for their rewards, and it's not like they're any bad to play at all. Outside of all the commissions and other missions, there are many hub areas, being both some way to walk around and having plenty of stuff to do outside of commissions and just looking nice. The main areas at the start of the game are 6th Street and Random Play. Random Play is where the protagonists live, do commissions, and run their shop. This is where commissions are accessed, time could be passed by sleeping, and the store can be opened to earn extra money. While it acts as a separate area just outside of 6th Street, which has the most to do out of any area. Both coffee and noodles can give buffs to agents. Small daily rewards can be earned from the newsstand. The remodeling shop is where any Bangbu operations take place. The music store gives discs that agents can be equipped. The arcade can give rewards for playing the games. The gadget store sells W engines. The convenience store sells random supplies each day, and commemorative coins can be found around areas to be traded this sage in a barrel, as it's called. There's also a metro station, but nothing really ever happens there. The next two areas are the construction site and Ballet Twins Road. Both hold mostly small quests and are quite small because of that. The final and biggest area is Luminous Square, also having a coffee shop, noodle shop, newsstand, convenience store, and Sage in a Barrel. Luminous Square also has a metro and the HIA Club, which is accessed earlier, getting extra experience and resources for agents costing batteries. There are 4 locations, also all have Officer Mew Mew, which will give extra rewards for either quests that are commissions and ends that take place in the hubs, or doing small things like fixing broken bangoos. 6th Street and Luminous Square have double the amount of quests than the construction site in Ballet Twins Road, because they just have generally more stuff going on in them. The only area not mentioned here is called Outpost, but there's not anything outside the battles done that I mentioned. The last special thing to the hub is that agents can be around. All agents should be able to found at 6th Street. Because it's random, I don't have any agent. I can't verify this though. Only Bellabog agents can be found at the construction site, and I've only seen Victoria Housekeeping and Bellabog agents at Luminous Square. Overall, the hub areas are nice and feel lively with the many NPCs and agents being found there. I've already discussed a lot about agents when it comes to gameplay and ranks, but there's still more to it. As of the release version of the game, there are 3 main factions, each having 4 agents, also each being the focus of the main chapters in the game. Chapter 1 follows both the protagonists Belle and Wise, who are the only playable outside of commissions, and the actual agents are the Cunning Hares, housing Nicole, the supposed leader. Well, those may not be exactly official, those Ambi, Billy, and Nakamata. The main business is simply taking commissions relating to hollows. Overall, all the characters here, very fun to watch, and also all have very distinct looks compared to the other factions, having a lot more pops of color in their designs and, unlike the other factions, have different colored backgrounds. The next faction and the one Chapter 2 follows is Bellabog Heavy Industries, with the president, Kaleda, as well as Anton, Ben, and Graves. They focus on construction inside of hollows, and while I don't personally find them as entertaining as the Cunning Hares, still overall great characters, and Kaleda especially has a lot going on with her story, which I enjoy. The final main faction is Victoria Housekeeping Co. Their leader is Lycon, my personal favorite character in the game, and the reason I played. That's the Corn, Ellen, and Rena. They're mates plus a butler, so they have services matching those jobs as well as in-hollow jobs. Definitely seem to be some of the stronger agents outside of the actual gameplay. Of the 2 best agents, from what I've heard, do come from here. Admittedly, despite not having a ton of stuff going on that I've seen in Chapter 1, because of my bias towards Lycon, this is my personal favorite faction, and I've looked more into other stuff with these characters. The final agent with any relevance is the Criminal Investigation Team, or basically the public security, being in the Chapter 2 interlude, not as long as the other chapters, but are in one unlike the other unmentioned agents. When this video releases, the only member should be Zuyuan, being the first agent added after released, but was playable through trial mode in the Chapter 2 interlude, similarly to Agent Stories. There's also Ninji, who was also in the interlude despite not being playable at all. The only other member is Seth, but another Agent Jane is in promotional material with the other 3. Seems to be related maybe. Both Seth and Jane are unreleased, so nothing is confirmed. From the remaining agents, there's Soldier 11 in the Opal Squad, basically being some form of defense. Soldier 11 does have an agent story though, and it is the first one unlocked too, so she has some story to her endgame. There's Section 6 with Sokaku being the only playable agent, but there's also the final revealed but not yet playable agent in Hoshimi, being a force responding to hollow disasters. Finally is Piper and Lucy in the Sons of Kaladin, which I don't really know anything about, and even the wiki is pretty much blank, so they're kind of a mystery. In fact, they're even revealed just before the game release, unlike all the other playable agents. As previously mentioned, agent stories are a thing, adding an extra story for S-rank agents as of now. They all have 3 parts which can be locked behind leveling alongside beating prior parts. I enjoy all of these as they add on extra characters for agents, and enjoy getting to know these characters. Speaking of getting to know agents, there's a trust system. After beating the related agents chapters, unlocking them, and completing their agent story if they have one, they will show up around the hubs, which I talked about. These interactions are nice and quick, adding a bit of trust if done correctly. Agents can also be invited somewhere. These events add on even more character and add on even more trust. 3 invites can be sent per day, but an agent can only be invited once per day. So the invites have to be separate agents. Agents also have 3 special cutscenes, having one around the start of befriending an agent, one at the end of raising their trust up, and one after getting to stage 2. They send a DM asking for a tape. After all, the characters do own a tape shop. S-ranks do ask for tapes that are a little higher level to get, and after this event, they can promote random play when opening shop. I think the agents are the strongest part of this game. While yes, I do enjoy the gameplay, characters are what players bond with and can pull players like me in. Internet is the main social media of the world in ZZZ. Having fun posts to look at, and when interacting with NPC quests that are commissioned, they post it on internet for players to actually take. Although the main thing I want to discuss is the internet leveling system. Internet experience is earned through commissions or other sort of quests. Once reaching 20, there's also a rank up mechanic, kind of. So every 10 levels from this point, there's a special level that needs to be beaten using stronger enemies in them. The main point of this is to keep agents from being too powerful. Agents also have to rank up every 10 levels, so first, they can only rank up once going to level 20. Ranking up to level 20 lets agents go to 30. 30, agents can go to 40, so 1 up to agent level 70 and internet level 60 as of now. The other notable thing about the levels are that between chapters and during chapters, there are internal level requirements, which is my personal main issue with this game. Once reaching chapter 2, it takes a long time to level up, being 4 levels between chapter 2 and the interlude, as well as the interlude in chapter 3. I don't remember having issues in the middle of chapter 2 and in the middle of chapter 3. It's only 2 levels, which is nice. Now I should mention, leveling itself isn't super difficult. Going to the HRA club can get up to 2,600 experience, with the 240 charging batteries and 60 extra from coffee. But never do anything with over 60 batteries yet. The amount of enemies set changes. The cost 20 is the cheapest, giving 200 experience, 40 gives 400, and 60 gives 600, and 1800 also gives 600, which is really weird because it's the same amount of batteries that are going to be used either way. This is a good amount, but it's per day, so trying to just get through the story is kinda annoying. The other main thing is getting 1,200 experience weekly, which is even less often, so it doesn't help. Admittedly, after beating all stories that could currently be in the game when playing it, shouldn't make this an issue as long as dailies are done. So it doesn't annoy me as much now, but I still wanted to make sure I mentioned it. I've mentioned slight parts of the story in this game, but I'm going to do a bit more in depth now, without spoiling much, if anything at all. The stories in CCC should really not be skipped. I already mentioned that agents are the strongest part of this game, and the story is where they shine the most. So far, each chapter has focused on specific characters, but there are clear hints that characters won't just be forgotten after their chapter with the ending of Chapter 3. In my agent section, I did mention more about the characters with story, because I have some sort of bond with all these characters from everything, unlike the 3 playable ones that don't really have a lot going on right as of right now. One last thing is the cutscenes in the stories. There are 3 kinds. The first is the most common, being just general talking from characters with voicing over them. There's also animated cutscenes, which are pretty nice if used sparingly, although I've heard complaints of characters being almost over animated, which I don't mind, and it's not super common in the game, so it shouldn't take much away from those who don't like it. Finally is the comic style, used for stuff that needs more visuals without being outright animated. I really like these because of the style, and also I'm sure it's nice for those who dislike the cutscene animation. Before I wrap up the video, there's something important to talk about with Hoyoverse, the creators of ZZZ. In another Hoyoverse game, Genshin Impact, the recently added characters and areas of African inspiration and I believe Latin American inspirations as well, but the added characters the issue of being light, which they really shouldn't be with their intention. Admittedly, I'm not an expert on this from either the cultural or even Genshin aspects because I don't play that game, but I do know that it is a clear issue, so it's important to not spend any money in any of the Hoyoverse games, including CCC, as well as trying to make your voice through reviews or talking about it on social medias. Back to ZCC, the game is pretty well made and worth trying out for those who are interested. I mean, the game is literally free, so just don't spend any money, as I mentioned, to not support Hoyoverse. Though it might be harder to enjoy if you don't play it for the gameplay and don't really care about any characters.